Hello! Today I'm going to be talking about a very old standby in the homeschool community, and that is Explode the Code. I raided my mom's homeschool stash and I came up with Explode the Code levels 1 through 8. I'm going to give you a look inside this resource. I'll talk about how our family has used it in the past and how I'll be using it with my son, but I'll also share some different ways that people can use this resource. The reason I wanted to show you a look into all of these major levels is because I know that if you're not used to Explode the Code, it can be hard to figure out where to place your child. This classic is a standby in the homeschool community for good reason. So I think it's definitely worth looking into. Explode the Code 1. We are going to start at 1 and work our way up as we do in education. And this is the student workbook. There are teachers' editions, teacher guides for the Explode the Code series. We don't have those. We haven't used those. For people who are interested in using Explode the Code as a complete way to teach reading and phonics, I highly recommend the teacher's guides, as that creates more of a full program. For those of you who just want some independent work, some worksheets, some way to apply and use what your child has learned in their reading lessons, in that case you can just get the inexpensive student workbooks. And these can be a great addition for independent work or just a simple bit of application of what's being learned. I'm going to show a quick flip through of every level so you can get kind of an idea, and they stay very consistent throughout the level. So you start with a pre-test, going over consonants. Consonants are taught in the Before the Code series, which has 3 books in that series. So there's a consonant pre-test. We're circling the picture that begins with that consonant, and then we start working on short vowel sounds. It says lesson 1 up here at the top of the page, and when you have the teacher's guides, you're going to see more of the lesson being tied in, getting outside the workbook. But these are very usable all on their own as workbooks. And you are going to stay on that one lesson for a while. You're going to be working with that letter sound. You're going to be working with the same set of words in different ways repeatedly over several pages. So you can see that the same words are being used, the same images are being used, but we have different types of activities. You can see right here that they start out using 3 lines here for your child to write on. When we're learning to write words, we have the 3 lines, still using the same set of words. Each Explode the Code book has about 90 worksheets in it, roughly around that 90 level, if you can see there. Which means if you do about 5 pages a week, so 1 worksheet a day for a 5-day school week, you'll finish that in about 1 semester, in about 18 weeks. So a very normal pace to take is to do 2 Explode the Code books in 1 school year. So my son has started Explode the Code 1. He's going into kindergarten. I can very easily expect that he will complete Explode the Code 1 and 2 during this kindergarten school year. But not everyone would necessarily start using it at the beginning of kindergarten. The best thing, of course, is to choose what level fits your child. So when I look at this level and I'm thinking about how to place my son, he can read. He has been introduced to words slightly more complex than this. He's been introduced to words with beginning blends and ending blends with CH, SH, TH. So he can read at a slightly more complex level than this. But he definitely can read these words well enough to look at this page and be able to circle the right word. And then, so to me, a really good way to place is to make sure if you're not using this for initial instruction of phonics, but for practice and for work with what you know, I like to use it to make sure your child is a little bit ahead of what the level in that book, and then to use that book for application and practice of what they have learned. Because when you get to this page in the unit where you're looking at these pictures, and because they've been using the exact same illustrations for a while now, you're more easily able to know what these pictures represent. You're not guessing them out of nowhere because they have used the same illustrations in multiple activities before, but this is kind of a more challenging page where your child isn't pulling it from a word bank. They're just simply writing it and spelling it based on what they know. But my suggestion is, at least that's how our family uses it, is that we tend to use Explode the Code at a slightly lower level than where our child is able to read at, because doing word work like this can be a little bit more challenging than reading. So that's level 1. If you're still watching at this point, I'm going to assume that you're a little bit of a homeschool nerd like me, and if you're not subscribed yet, I will suggest that you subscribe now, because I have so many more nerdy homeschool videos where this one is coming from. I'm really hoping that by looking at these, you'll understand how to place your kids in a level. This book gets into the level of words where my child is currently reading, where we're having these beginning blends, ending blends, but it's still all short vowel words. We have some double letters at the end of a word. So you can see it's all the same types of activities, and we still have the 3-row writing lines. Same types of activities, choosing the correct word that matches the picture. And you can see that. So we stick with blends and short vowels through this book. And so it could be very normal that you'd get through 1 and 2 in one school year. Then level 3. So this is where I think people get confused, is that they start to attach these numbers to grade levels, and they are not meant to be attached to grade levels. So this is level 3. So maybe this would be where you would start in 1st grade. But of course, look at what your child already knows and what they can do. Maybe they start this in the latter part of kindergarten. We're starting to include some long vowel words. We have a rule here: if a little word ends in Y, the Y says I. So we have these types of short words that end in long vowel sounds. So we're getting beyond our CVC words. We're starting to include our silent E words with long vowel sounds in the middle. And again, you can see the same type of work. You're still having these types of writing lines to help guide your child who's probably still mastering writing. We have these types of words with blends at the beginning and long vowels in the middle. But we're following with very consistent activities so that you can get a good idea of so the child is never really shocked. Then to book 4. And again, each of these has roughly 90 worksheets. So if you're doing one a day, maybe 18 weeks to finish it. Okay, now we're working on compound words. And compound words that could include short vowels or long vowel sounds. Working on putting words together, putting words into sentences at this point. And you'll notice in this level, we no longer have, so this is number 4, we no longer have those 3-row writing lines in the book. Getting a little bit more complex, we're adding endings to words. So when they first introduce a new section, they do have this rule that is being focused on throughout the section. They make that rule explicit, which is really helpful. You don't have to guess, what are we doing here? All right, we're dividing words between syllables. So now we're reviewing the different ways to be divided into syllables, where you divide the word. That helps with spelling. We go into open and closed syllables. Open and closed, marking long, short vowels. So we're continuing to do work with words, just doing the work. It's simple, straightforward. Then we get to book 5. And book 5, we're working with endings and the pronunciation of the ED ending. English is so fun, isn't it? How vastly complicated it is. ED endings. So how it is pronounced, paying attention to how that ED is pronounced. This is all ways to work on spelling. You get some special sounds in here, ALL, ALK. It's continuing to play with words, work with them, see how you know, but you can tell that the activities really stay very consistent. We had these same activities a few levels ago, but they just grow in a challenge phonetically. And if you wanted to work through these a little bit faster, if your child loves workbooks, you could probably do 3 in a year. You know, if you end up doing 2 pages a day, You can get through several of these in a year. Then we're on to book 6. Here, again, okay, we're learning AR sounds, or we're practicing with AR sounds. Again, I would assume that a child would probably be introduced to the AR sound by the time they're reading, but working with that sound can be different than just reading it by the time you would get to this book. Working with the sound, recognizing it, distinguishing between different similar sounds and how to spell words. This can often work well as independent schoolwork, something that you can hand your child, they can do on their own while you're working with a different child. We're now up to book 7. Again, I hope that you will be able to see what level might be a good fit or too easy or too hard for your child by looking at this. Here we're learning the spelling rule about C being followed by E, I, or Y. And then we're joining syllables. So this is a little bit trickier for sure. Joining syllables to make 2 different words. We get circus and circle. So it's a more challenging activity as we're getting further on. In this level, they also start having reading comprehension passages where the child is reading this paragraph and then having to answer the questions below the paragraph. But once again, each section is working on the same group of words following the same phonics rule that's being worked on. Here we have D, G, E. And you can see that. So if you strictly did the 2 books a year, and if you started in kindergarten, many ifs, of course, right? If you did that, you'd be ending this in about 3rd grade, which is fairly typical for ending the phonics journey. This is the very last book in the series, book 8. And you can see, oh, here we're working with antonyms, we're working with suffixes, shapes of words, answering questions with the correct word. We have continue with the reading passages, reading comprehension there, putting syllables in order to make a word that fits that meaning. So we're integrating some meanings of words, which that has been introduced all the way through comprehension, photos, all of that. But here we're seeing more of verbal definitions of words. And here's breaking it up into syllables, counting the syllables, seeing which letters are part of one. And this is, again, more challenging. We have 2 words that are going to go in a sentence. See which word goes into which blank in the sentence and having to make that decision. One more thing I should mention is that there are additional books in the Explode the Code series. There are what are called half books, which come after. So you can use it like this. You finish book 1. If you don't feel that your child is ready to move on to book 2, you can do book 1.5, which has the exact same type of content and the same type of words that you're working on, those CVC words, and it can help bridge them, give them extra time just practicing those type of words before you move to book 2. So we have the half books available all the way up until book 6. There is also a Beyond the Code series, which focuses much more on comprehension. So you see those comprehension reading passages in the upper levels here, but the Beyond the Code series offers reading comprehension, and you'll be reading some kind of story, and then you have different kind of activities where you're working with the content of that story. All right, I hope that this was helpful and that you could enjoy this, that this helps give you an idea of whether or not Explode the Code might be a nice, simple addition to your homeschool, or how you may or may not be able to use it. All right, I'll see you next time. Bye.